And why a judge says this man accused in a 2016 Joplin shooting is not guilty.
The CDC now says regardless of your vaccination status, you should go back to wearing a mask indoors if you're in an area with high COVID numbers. I'm Zach Dodge with Reaction.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
The suspect in a southwest Missouri kidnapping is arrested in Guatemala. This is KOIM News at 6. Mahmoud Mohammed, a Somali national, is charged with kidnapping the 4-year-old daughter of Jessica McCormick of Knoll. McCormick's body was found in a suitcase in July of 2019 between Lanigan and Knoll. After identifying McCormick's body, authorities couldn't find her 3 kids. An informant told them Mohammed had taken the kids to Iowa, where he left them with a former co-worker. All 3 children were found safe. The father of the 4-year-old child told police Mohammed did not have permission to take the kids. Mohammed was indicted on a kidnapping charge in August of 2019 and recently was arrested in Guatemala, expelled from that country, and returned to the U.S. No arrests have been made in McCormick's death. A Jasper County judge rules that a Joplin man who was charged with shooting 5 people in 2016 is not guilty by reason of insanity. Attorneys for 31-year-old Tom Mourning Jr. have argued that he was schizophrenic. They say that due to his mental health, he was not aware of what he was doing in August of 2016 when police say he shot at 2 cars. 5 people in the cars were injured but survived. The assistant Jasper County attorney says all doctors who evaluated Mourning believed he was mentally ill at the time of the shootings. A Seneca, Missouri woman is dead after a crash on Highway 43, 4 miles north of Seneca. The Missouri Highway Patrol crash report says Crystal Ward was riding in a car that crossed into the path of a utility truck. Ward and the car's 2 other occupants were taken to the hospital. Ward died yesterday. Nick Kelly, it remains dangerously hot across the 4 states.
And dangerously humid, Dal. That's why, even though we hit the mid-90s for today, it feels as hot as 110, or at least felt like it earlier this afternoon. So again, another day where it may look nice from 7th and Range Line with nothing to track in terms of rain or storms on the satellite and radar composite. It's all about the heat, all about the humidity staying quite high. That's why we have excessive heat warnings for much of the region, taking us into 9 o'clock Thursday evening. Everyone else not escaping the heat, as everyone else will stay under heat advisories until 9 o'clock tomorrow evening. Still hot, still humid outside, maybe 92 at the coolest in Mount Vernon, but still 94 in Parsons and Neodesha. But you factor in the humidity, these numbers are starting to climb down a little bit, but it still feels as hot as 106 in Chanute and Neodesha, while it feels like 101 over in Carthage. Very slow drop off, but still a warm night. 83 by 10 o'clock, 80 by midnight. I'm thinking mid-70s for overnight lows. We got another hot and humid dangerous day ahead of us now before relief from the heat comes on in. Full forecast in a bit.
Catch you then. Mask requirements come back at a local health department as they see breakthrough cases. Now, yesterday, the CDC updated their guidance on face masks, saying that masks should be worn indoors in high COVID areas like our entire viewing area, regardless of vaccination status. That's what the Barton County Health Department is now requiring. KOIM Zach Dodge has details and local reaction to the CDC's update.
It's time to pick those face masks back up. That's what the CDC recommends everyone do indoors, even if they're fully vaccinated.
If you are vaccinated and you are one of those rare breakthrough infections, you actually have the capacity to pass it to somebody else.
And now it's a requirement at the Barton County Health Department.
Safety of our own staff and the people coming in here.
As of Wednesday, everyone who goes into the health department will have to wear a face covering. Administrator Joel Dermott says the change doesn't have as much to do with the CDC's new guidance, but instead because they were seeing the same alarming trends as the CDC.
We had been seeing some cases through contact tracing where we had breakthrough cases where people were fully vaccinated, and in doing that we were we were beginning to see some indicators that they were perhaps transmitting the virus themselves.
Masking has been a requirement at Freeman and Mercy hospitals for a while, as well as at Access Family Care. And the McDonald and Jasper County Health Departments have some form of mask requirement, whether it be for staff or patients. But at the Newton County Health Department,
we are currently optional on masks.
Administrator Larry Bergner explains all of his staff is vaccinated, and even though they've seen around 40 breakthrough cases in the county, viral spread at the health department itself isn't something he's concerned about right now.
We normally don't see the client load at one time. We don't have a packed building. Now, certainly if we start to see folks come in and we have a large number of clients at one time that's consistently that way, we might reevaluate.
And while both Dermott and Bergner understand why the CDC changed their guidance, they're concerned the change could push some people away from vaccination.
My message is get vaccinated to prevent illness, hospitalization, and death.
Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
We also reached out to Joplin Mayor Ryan Stanley, who says a mask mandate is not something the city is looking at this time. Jasper County Health Department reports 3 more COVID-19 deaths. The patients were all men. They were in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. The latest deaths bring the county's total to 175. Officials at Freeman Hospital say they're keeping an eye on a contagious fungus. It's called Candida auris. It was first discovered in 2009, but recently has been reportedly passed from person to person. Cases have been reported in a number of states, including one in Missouri, according to the CDC.
Our lab has the ability to detect it, but you have to have confirmation from your state lab in order for you to confirm that it actually is present. So once we detect it utilizing our in-house laboratory, we then send the specimen off to the state lab.
The CDC says the fungus is particularly dangerous because it's often multi-drug resistant. Still ahead, the Better Business Bureau has a lesson for students heading off to college and celebrating 150 years since the platting that led to the creation of Joplin.
And I'm Marty.
Students will soon leave home and head to college campuses here in the 4 states and, of course, all across our country. They're preparing for lessons to begin their new adult life, but before that, the Better Business Bureau has a lesson that they hope will help ensure that the new adult life doesn't start with identity fraud. The BBB has provided some tips for students to avoid fraud. First, make sure you store important documents under lock and key. Never lend your credit card or debit card to anyone. And Pittsburgh campus police also advise being wary of credit card offers.
Just be careful on credit cards and applications, especially unsolicited ones. They're out there. You can't have social media feed without something popping up wanting you to apply for this card or that card. I would go directly to the website of whatever card you may be thinking about applying for and go that way. The
BBB also says to check your credit report at least once a year with all 3 reporting bureaus for any suspicious activity or inaccuracies. 150 years ago today, the city of Joplin was still a dream. On July 28, 1871, John C. Cox, one of the city's founders, filed a plat for a piece of land that he named Joplin City. Lots immediately became available, and Joplin's first home was built on the northwest corner of Cox and Central. That property today served as the site of a celebration for the city's anniversary. Now, Joplin didn't actually become the city as we know it. It wasn't incorporated until a couple of years later. In 1873, Joplin merged with Murfreesburg and became permanently incorporated with the state of Missouri. That's a moment that, according to historian Brad Belk, founder John C. Cox missed that moment.
Leaves and never knows, dies before this community ever really begins to start. But his name lives on. That's the amazing thing that I find, that someone that And his name, because of the spring, then the creeks, that's where that Joplin name came.
Today's event is just one of many leading up to the city's sesquicentennial in 2023. Later, just one day after a mask mandate went into effect in St. Louis County and City, it's overturned. We're going to hear about the motivation behind the reversal.
But first, we'll break down how long this dangerous heat and humidity will be around before we get a break later on down the road. Forecast next. We stayed very hot and very humid once again, the theme we've been riding on in terms of our weather setup ever since we wrapped up the past weekend, and certainly over the past 36 hours, where Joplin Regional saw temperatures push into the mid-90s yesterday afternoon, only dropping back into the mid-70s this morning. And so far, the hottest we've gone was 95, but at the hottest point in the day, we had Joplin observe a dew point of 76 or 77, making it feel like 110 during the peak of the afternoon. So even though it looked nice with some passing cloud cover, this was our main weather headline that really stands out. Excessive heat warnings for many of us through this evening, and in fact, all the way through Thursday evening, since we're looking at another downright hot and humid day tomorrow, and everyone else is still under heat advisories. But it doesn't matter what you're under. Everybody's looking at another day with dangerous heat and humidity tomorrow, and this could potentially linger into Saturday before we see a change down the road. Until that change comes, the worst of the heat and the humidity that we'll see each afternoon will be between 2 in the afternoon up until about 6 o'clock as we get each evening started. Fortunately, by the weekend, the late Saturday and certainly early next week, a front on the way not only brings us rain chances that we could use, but a much needed break from the heat. Looks nice from 7th and Range Line, but doesn't feel nice at all. 93 in Joplin with a dew point of 73. Despite a west wind at 8 miles per hour, makes it feel like 102 degrees outside at the airport and downtown. In fact, everybody is either ranging from 90 in Iowa to as hot as 95 in Chanute. But you have to tack the dew points on with the air temperatures. And these dew points, they're just right up the gamut. 73 in the low end for many of you to as high as 80 in Forest Scott. So we are way beyond the soupy scale with numbers pushing that high. So it's no wonder it still feels like we're near 100, if not pushing 106 around Chanute and the Yotashe. A very slow drop up, but we will cool down through the overnight, but still near 80 by midnight before we start tomorrow morning out in the mid-70s. I don't have a lot to show you in our immediate region. I am watching, though, a frontal boundary to the north that will come our way eventually, but tonight it might provide an outbreak of severe weather across parts of the upper Midwest. But we are dominated by this upper level ridge, and until this breaks down, we're going to stay hot. We are definitely going to stay humid as we go through not only the rest of this evening, but through tomorrow as well. Fortunately, during the overnight, temperatures will probably get a reprieve from the heat in mid-70s to start the day out, and despite some afternoon cloud cover and a light west breeze at 5 to 10, you can see those numbers shooting right back up there. 75 in the morning, 91 by noon. We'll have highs around 96. Friday's looking more of the same, but in terms of what it'll feel like for tomorrow afternoon, this is why these excessive heat warnings are out. It's going to feel like 103 to 111 at the hottest, with all the humidity in place during tomorrow afternoon. And then we back off on the humidity a little bit, but it can still feel as high as 105 by Friday afternoon. But by this weekend, as this upper ridge starts to drive itself back to the west, the front, a very good upper low, that will start to push the jet stream back to our south and west, and that is when we'll finally see a break, a much needed break from the heat and humidity. So until that happens, alert days for tomorrow through Saturday due to the heat and humidity, highs in the mid-90s, thunderstorm chances late Saturday into Sunday, and behind that Dow, lows back in the 60s and highs in the mid-80s.
Won't that be nice?
That'll be really nice.
Lows in the 60s. Wow. Thanks, Nick. Still ahead, we're going to hear why St. Louis County leaders voted to overturn a mask mandate just one day after it went into effect. Opposition to a St. Louis mask mandate boils over at a meeting of the county council.
Stand with me now with our voices in unison and put our public servants. We will not comply. We will not comply.
Only one day after it went into effect, a mask mandate in St. Louis County has been repealed. The mandate was discussed at last night's St. Louis County Council meeting, and many members of the public spoke out mostly against the mandate. Many speakers said it's an issue of freedom, while one said the mandate could be helpful. Several members of the county council have spoken out against the mandate, saying it violates a recently passed state law that requires input from a governing body, such as a county council. But others highlighted the importance of the mandate for public health.
ICU bed occupancy continues to increase. Pediatric patients continue to increase in number. And the disease seems to be striking a younger age group than we saw at the same time last year.
The mandate is still in effect in the city of St. Louis. An Oklahoma woman gave birth to a rare set of triplets last month. They're identical. The babies have spent the past 2 months in the neonatal intensive care unit at the hospital. And as Patrina Adger reports, they're all home now.
They were born at 29 weeks, so they were all a little over 2 pounds, so they were really small.
Small but mighty and growing every day.
Aspen, she actually got to come home first. The other 2 was still in the NICU, so that was really hard.
The Norman family all together now, Stephanie, TJ, and 2-year-old Wyatt, adjusting from a family of 3 to 6. Stephanie giving birth to rare identical triplets on June 2nd.
They all each had their own sac. So since they all shared one placenta, that made them identical.
The news of 3 more babies coming as a huge shock to these high school sweethearts.
We were ready to start trying for one more. We wanted one more, and we were hoping it would be a girl. And then we were surprised. We got 3 girls.
I kind of joked about it on the way there for that first ultrasound.
Yeah, on the way.
What we're going to do when we hear more than one heartbeat, and then there was 3 of them in there.
And big brother Wyatt couldn't be prouder.
They get up in the morning, he'll be like, "Hi, Sissy."
Hi, Sissy. The beautiful baby girls are identical, so telling them apart is a challenge right now.
We have little anklet bracelets on them right now of different colors with their initials on them. This is their room.
And it's 3 of everything. Cribs, a 3-seat stroller,
closet full of diapers,
and lots of diapers. A life the Norman family is grateful for.
Final check on the weather is next. Take time now to honor a local veteran. Master Sergeant David Barr served in the U.S. Army. His hometown, Joplin. And we are proud to salute Master Sergeant David Barr. He's tonight's 4-state hero. Matt Damon is trying to save the day in his latest film, but this character is far from Jason Bourne. David Daniel has a look at the new movie with ties to the Sooner State.
Some folks are born made to wear the flag.
You're in Marseille for vacation?
Yeah, visiting my daughter.
You're the father of the girl, the American student?
Yes, ma'am.
Stillwater stars Matt Damon as an Oklahoma roughneck trying to free his daughter from a French prison.
Allison came here for college, and that's where she met this girl, Lena. One night she found Lena dead and called the police. All they cared about was Allison sleeping with some Arab girl.
I think he's been beat up by life a little bit, and he's been humbled by life.
We have exhausted every possible legal action. Is the lawyer not helping you?
I'm doing it myself for now.
I could help.
Co-star Camille Cotin praised the subtlety of Damon's performance.
It's incredible how little he speaks and how deep into his soul we can see.
For the role, Damon and director Tom McCarthy talked with real Oklahoma oil workers.
I think they're like, oh, is this going to be kind of the cultural elite looking down their nose at us? Like, what's going on? And I think once they realized, where Tom and I were coming from and what the script was, and that the script has such compassion and empathy for this guy, they were invaluable. They gave us this access that really helped me build this character.
I'm trying to get my little girl out of jail. That's all I give a damn about.
You sound very American right now.
Good, I am.
Yeah, and you're also a stranger here.
Anybody who goes through that much and has that much hard-earned wisdom and gets up and takes another run at it every day, I think is doing something heroic.
She's my little girl.
Dad, please.
I'm not going to give up.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
We'll see if the film is a hit or not, but I can guarantee a lot of people in Stillwater, Oklahoma, are going to be checking this one out.
I bet they will.
It's still hot out there, Nick.
Yeah, with excessive heat warnings for tomorrow and the heat and humidity sticking with us through Saturday. That's why the alert days are still up. 96 tomorrow, mid-90s continue through Saturday. Fortunately, late Saturday into Sunday, our next front rolls in with some rain and thunderstorms. And behind it, much needed break from the heat. Dow highs one could drop back into the mid-80s.
Thank goodness. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you right back here for KOAM News at 10. Let's make it a great evening.